Hello, my friends. Welcome to Talk to Me Tuesday for Tuesday, November 26, 2024. This is Jennifer. We're on the opposite side of my sewing room today, so I can show you guys some quilted projects that are not quilts. I just got a burst of energy last week, which is the first time this has happened in a while, and I'm really grateful that I did. Honestly, I think finishing the heirloom applique quilt really helped. It is in transit on the way to my aunt, so I will let you guys know as soon as she has it and see, you know, what her reaction is and stuff. But in the meantime, I did finish some projects. Two of them were on my to-do list, and it was really nice to get those off the list because, you know, I don't think I have to explain to you what kind of pressure having your own to-do list can do to you. So the first and the very obvious one is this Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer cushion. This has actually been on my list for a couple of years. This is the sample block that I made to test this pattern for the 2019 Rankin Bass quilt along that we did on Fandom and Stitches. This is my design. This pattern is paper pieced, or you could do applique or embroidery, and it's available in 10 inches or 20 inches. And so that is free on Fandom and Stitches. It's also on my website, sewhookedjen.com. You can find this under Holiday Favorites Rankin Bass on Fandom and Stitches. So the way I made this was I took the quilt block and I quilted it just like it was going to be a quilt. So there is a fabric on the back of this that it is quilted to. There's batting inside, and you can see I did little swirls all over it. And then after I quilted it, I made a separate back out of flannel, and it was actually 2 fat quarters because I didn't have enough for anything. So I just did 2 fat quarters that were both from some winter fabric that I had. This has a zipper in it right here. So I made this piece first and got the zipper all ready to go. And then I centered it on the back of the cushion, basted it down, and then I bound the whole thing together. So the binding holds the back on, and then this has a separate back inside. So yeah, very happy with this. Again, a 20-inch cushion, all quilted. And this is something that I promised to my eldest kid. Like, I did it long enough ago that I had written it down and they didn't even remember. The next little quilted thing I did was a very small project, and it was just something that popped in my head a few days ago. If you guys have been around for a while, you may remember that I made covers for a lot of the things in my kitchen. So I have a cover for my Kitchenaid, a cover for my Instant Pot, a cover for my tea kettle, that kind of thing. And it's primarily because I have cats, and that just keeps the dust and keeps the cat hair off of the things that I cook with, which I really enjoy. I love dust covers. They're all over the sewing room, and we'll talk more about that in a second. But this goes with my kitchen. This is just almost the dregs of this fabric. I have a few little scraps of it left. I don't actually remember what this fabric was. I have it written down somewhere. Doesn't matter right now. This is just a little fabric basket I made to hold hot chocolate packets because my family loves a nice hot cocoa, and I just got tired of having cardboard boxes all over my kitchen counter. So this is a couple of boxes, about 2.5 boxes of hot chocolate in here. This is a Kreative Kiwi machine embroidery design that is intended for a casserole. It's part of their kitchen collection. I'll put a link in the description. So here's the tea kettle, and then there's a cup right there. So I made this just like the other fabric baskets I've made. This was 10-inch squares, so these were basically layer cakes, but then I cut an 1.5 inches off of just one side so that it would be a little bit more squat, because I didn't want it to be quite so tall as the other ones. And I love it. I think it worked out perfectly, and it looks great on my kitchen counter. Which leads us to this guy. This is another dust cover, but this is for a machine. This is my embroidery machine that I got a few months ago, and I hadn't made a cover for it. I knew I wanted to, and I just hadn't gotten around to it. I didn't have the energy to do it. I didn't have the emotional wherewithal to do it, and I wasn't entirely sure how I was going to tackle it. I was cleaning and just in my house in general a few days ago and was dusting this machine, and there was so much dust on it. Again, I have cats, and that's just part of having pets. And after I dusted it, I decided I have to make a dust cover. This is just not acceptable. This machine was not inexpensive, and I want to make sure that I take the best care of it that I can. I have dust covers for all of the rest of my machines, and I will also put a link to the where I did show and tell about all my different machine covers. This is Bubble Up. It is a Wilmington Essential, and I've made all of my covers for all of my sewing machine covers out of this fabric. I've probably in total purchased a whole bolt of it. I got 10 yards of it from Hip Stitch earlier this year when I did all of my sewing machine covers. I'm going to point over here, my ironing board is right here, and it is also covered in this fabric. I love it, and it makes me happy, so I have it everywhere. The original set of machine covers that I made had Bubble Up on both sides, but I didn't quite have enough to do that, so I put something else on the back, and I had just enough. I seriously had, I think, when I measured, I had something like 5 inches by like 10 left in the quilted part of the fabric that I made. That was Bubble Up. So I barely had enough to cut all my pieces, but I did, and it's a little taller at the front, and it actually angles down. So it's a little taller at the front, and then it angles down towards the back, and I'll go ahead and take it off so you guys can see it. This is the part that covers this part of the machine. It goes up to the thread stand. This thread stand does lay down, but I'm never going to put it down because it lives here. I'm not ever going to take this machine anywhere, and there's no reason for me to put it down. So I wanted to make the cover so it could go around the thread stand. So this is the part that leads up to the thread stand, and then this thread stand will be here. That's the top, and then you can see the back. I'm trying to hold this here. It was basically a cube, and I slid it up the center to make this piece because I just figured that was way easier than me trying to do the math for each individual piece. And it was much easier. And then I have bias tape on here, and you can see the inside is just totally scrappy. It was a whole bunch of just random pieces of fabric that I sewed together to put on the back of this. And I did quilt it on my mid-arm. Unlike the sewing machine covers I made previously, I did a meander on this, which honestly I did it because I was making one machine cover and I wanted it to be done fairly quickly. I didn't want to spend days quilting it. So I did a bigger, I just did a little bit bigger quilt job on it. So anyway, so I love it. Let's put it back on. So it goes from the center here. This goes up here like this. Tuck this guy up. And then for the back, I'm just lapping those two sides over. There are no closures or anything like that. It's just to keep the dust out, so I'm not worried about it. That is my show and tell for today. That it's delightful to have two things off of my to-do list. Everything else will most likely just roll over into next year because I need to start working on some gifts and doing some Christmas ornaments, which, you know, you guys have already seen me working on. If you celebrate Thanksgiving, I hope you have a lovely, peaceful week. It'll be just the 4 of us at my house this week, and I'm really looking forward to that. You guys have a wonderful, wonderful crafty week. I hope you're doing well, and a big thank you, always big thank you to my coffee supporters. You guys are wonderful. You keep the boat going. So thank you. And yeah, you guys, it's so good to have my mojo back. I hope it stays. It's been a real struggle this year. I'll see you next week. Bye.